is Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Here now, Tony Bruschi.
I want to tell you about a case that is still unfolding, not because everything is known, but because the choices of one man and the legal strategies surrounding those choices show us how modern accountability works in real time. This is the case of Brian Walshe, a Massachusetts man indicted for the murder and dismemberment of his wife, Anna Walshe. Her body has never been recovered. But as the trial date draws closer, the evidence is mounting and the defense is reaching into every shadow they can find, including the scandal-plagued past of one investigator, hoping the system itself might cast enough doubt to save him. Because God knows, truth comes when you just cast enough doubt in other people's misdeeds. That means you're innocent, right? Shady person over here equals innocence. Well, in some cases, that seems to be how it turns out. So you can't blame a defense attorney for trying, right? They're doing their job. Well, in this case, so far, the law is standing up and saying, doesn't work that way. Anna Walshe was last seen alive around New Year's Day in 2023. She was only 39 years old, a successful real estate executive, and mother of 3 young boys. Her job required her to split her time between the family's home in Cohasset, Massachusetts, and Washington, D.C., where she worked full-time. Early accounts said that she left for a work emergency on January 1st. Because we all have work emergencies, especially in real estate. On January 1st, in the middle of the night. And she needed to board a flight to Washington, D.C. At least that was her husband's story. Good story, right? That'll work. Tell him that. Just like your fraudulent Warhol paintings that you were trying to sell online. He's a bright one. I mean, you look at the guy and you're like, something's up with this dude. I don't think all cylinders are firing quite right. But the story fell apart quickly. Investigators couldn't find a flight booked under her name. Might be helpful if that's going to be your story. Her cell phone was silent, her credit cards and debit cards remained unused, and surveillance never captured her entering the airport or leaving her house. It became clear alarmingly fast that Anna hadn't gone anywhere. At least not willingly. On January 8th, Brian Walshe was arrested, not for murder, but for misleading investigators. Prosecutors said he lied about his whereabouts on January 1st and 2nd. He claimed he was running errands for his mother. What he was really doing, and surveillance footage caught him doing this, well, it tells a very different story. He had bought hundreds of dollars worth of cleaning supplies. You know, like you do, spring cleaning, January 1st. Let's go get a bunch of stuff to clean up blood at the Home Depot. Oh, we don't do that? That's not part of your New Year's routine? Seems a little odd for him then, doesn't it? Mops, tarps, buckets. And he bought it in cash. Police also discovered a broken knife and bloodstains in the Walshe's family basement. Days later, he was charged with first-degree murder, misleading a police investigation, and improper conveyance of a human body. From the start, this was never going to be a clean trial. Brian Walshe came with baggage. A recent federal conviction for selling fake Andy Warhol paintings, like one does. Ongoing issues with the administration of his father's estate. But the legal battleground forming now isn't just about what Brian did. It's about who gets to say he did it and whether any of those people have stains of their own. The defense has made one thing very clear. They intend to argue that Brian Walshe can't get a fair trial in Norfolk County. It's not fair. I mean, he has all those Google searches for like how to dispose of a body and how to inherit money, how long to inherit money after a death, how to look up his Google search history. We've done many of episodes on it. Just on our channel, look up Brian Walshe and Anna Walshe. You will find just the most shocking. I think he still gets the award for the most devastating Google searches of any case I have ever covered. They're insane. And then to say, I had nothing to do with this. Yeah. Their motion to change venue is built around two things. And maybe changing venue is fine. The overwhelming pretrial publicity and the suggestion that local law enforcement cannot be trusted. And if you follow the Karen Reed case, you know where that second argument is coming from. Trooper Michael Proctor. Proctor is the lead state police investigator, or he was, who was removed from the Karen Reed case after offensive and unprofessional text messages surfaced during court proceedings. The text showed a deep personal bias against Reed, using crude and inflammatory language to describe her, and suggesting he may have perjured her guilt before evidence was even collected. Proctor was disciplined, the case was shaken, and Norfolk County law enforcement was thrown under a harsh national spotlight. And deservedly so. Now, the defense in the Walshe case is trying to bring that shadow into their courtroom and say, well, this boogeyman over here, where's a boogeyman? You never know what the boogeyman's up to. Boogeyman could do anything, right? Woo! They've requested access to the Proctor files, which at some point I'm sure will be a Netflix miniseries. The full batch of texts, emails, and communications from the Karen Reed case, arguing that if any of those materials touch the Walshe investigation, they deserve to be reviewed. Their aim is to show a pattern of misconduct, or at least to suggest that it's possible. The goal is jury doubt. And when you get a case like this, that's about the only damn thing you can hope for. Not by clearing Brian Walshe's name, but by staining the badge of those who built the case around him. Here's the thing. The prosecution knows this. They've already said they won't call Proctor as a witness, and more importantly, much of the evidence against Brian Walshe doesn't rest on any one detective's word. It rests on the actions of Brian Walshe and his searches and his actions and the blood in the basement and the shopping trip. It's not about police notes. It's about cold technical data and traceable physical facts, the kind of evidence that speaks for itself. Start with the digital trail. Investigators recovered multiple electronic devices from Walshe's home, including one used by Brian and others belonging to his children. A forensic sweep found internet searches made in the hours and days following Anna's disappearance, and they weren't subtle. How long before a body starts to smell? How to dispose of a body? How to clean blood from a wooden floor? Can you be charged with murder without a body? These searches, prosecutors say, form the spine of their timeline. Conducted in the early morning hours of January 1st and continuing in clusters across the next few days. The defense tried to suppress that evidence, arguing that law enforcement had exceeded the scope of consent-based search agreement. As if there is such a thing when you're being looked into for the murder of your wife. They said some devices should never have been examined. The court agreed in part, excluding limited portions of GPS and call history data, but the most damning Google searches, well, they were ruled admissible. And that ruling, quietly handed down in July of 2025, solidified the state's case. Then there's the physical evidence. In the Swampscott dumpster near the home of Brian Walshe's mother. Police recovered a pile of items tied to Anna through DNA testing and visual identification. A distinctive rug, a Gucci necklace, a colorful beaded chain, and a Hermes watch. The same one Anna was seen wearing in a photo taken on December 31st, just hours before her alleged murder. Prosecutors say the presence of those items in that location shows not just the aftermath of a crime, but an attempt to conceal it. The defense, again, is trying to draw a wedge between possession and guilt. But the evidence is tangible. Jurors can see that for themselves. All of this, the data, the DNA, the dumpster. Exits outside the Proctor debate. It all exists out there. Even if the defense proves misconduct in the Karen Reed investigation, that doesn't change what Brian Walshe's search history shows. And what ended up in the trash. And that may be the state's biggest advantage. They've built a case that doesn't depend on trust in the system. It depends on the digital and physical choices Brian Walshe made, minute by minute, item by item, after Anna vanished. Those crimes, after the fact, are what is going to sink this idiot. His poor decision-making, number one. And then, number two, trying to conceal this the way that he did. And being so stupid to search these things and think no one's going to look at it. That's what's going to sink this man. It's not a crooked cop from another case. It doesn't mean the trial will be clean. The defense is still fighting to exclude references to Brian's prior conviction for art fraud. Ooh. Guess what? Fake Warhols aren't going to put you over the edge to spending the rest of your life behind bars. It's the whole, how to inherit, how long to inherit after death. It's those searches about, can you identify a body in certain ways after certain things have been done to it in excruciating, gory detail, as searched by Brian Walshe on his own son's iPad. I don't think Proctor was in the house grabbing your son's iPad. How do I dispose of a body on January 1st, Brian? Nice try. It's kind of scary though, you think about it. If he didn't make those searches, if he was a little smarter about it, he'd have a stronger argument. Because people without that would look at oh, it's connected to Proctor. And you go, that's shady. Just like the Sandra Birchmore case. It's shady. And it's connected to crooked cops who also happen to be part of the same ecosystem. So it's not hard to raise a red flag, and it's not inappropriate, I think, to raise a red flag when you have a pattern of behavior of bad police work. But it is important to recognize when we're actually talking about bad police work or bad people, because not all police work is bad. And not all police work is bad from a bad department. There are still rules of law. There are still people in these departments that do have the public's interest at heart. They're not all evil. Brian was sentenced to 37 months in federal prison for selling the forged Warhol paintings. And any mention of an old police report from 2011 or allegations surrounding his father's estate, they argue that stacking unrelated bad acts in front of the jury is prejudicial. The judge will need to decide where motive ends and character assassination begins. You don't need them. You don't need the Warhol. You don't need the estate issues. If you get them in, great. It ain't going to sink this case. Prosecutors say motive matters here. They're going to argue that Walshe believed Anna was going to leave him, that she had a boyfriend in D.C., that if she took the children, it would not only ruin his marriage, but destroy his leverage in federal court. He was still awaiting sentencing in the art fraud case at the time. And he had reportedly told investigators he believed he could avoid prison if Anna was around to care for the boys. They'll argue that he thought he'd inherit life insurance money if she died. None of this is proven yet, but it frames the prosecution's case. It's not about rage, it's about control. Control of Anna, control of the narrative, control of the outcome, and a big old lack of empathy. And I'm going to guess some pretty messed up personality disorder at play as well. Wild guess. And that's where this case intersects with something larger. We've seen a rising wave of public scrutiny over police misconduct in Massachusetts and beyond. The Karen Reed case turned the spotlight harshly onto law enforcement bias. Digital receipts, private messages, shaking the faith in every badge they touched. But even in that environment, even with that doubt, some cases hold their own gravity. Some crimes are so brutally documented, so digitally mapped, that no disgraced trooper can unravel them. That may be the Brian Walshe paradox. The more he tried to plan, the more permanent his digital trail became. The more he tried to hide, the more objects he left behind. His legal team will try to argue that law enforcement poisoned the well. But the jury will have to decide whether that's enough or whether Walshe poisoned it himself, one search at a time. Because in the end, this isn't just a case about what's admissible. It's a case about what's undeniable. And that may be the lesson here. In the age of forensic precision and digital performance, you can't always hide behind a broken system. Sometimes even the cops are dirty. The data is clean, and it tells the story for you. Your thoughts in the comments section on YouTube. If you're not already there, search Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi, and you'll find us. And you can comment on all of our stories. That's what we love to hear, is your thoughts. So please do weigh in and press subscribe wherever you're listening or watching us so you don't miss any of the cases we cover for you right here at the Hidden Killers Podcast and True Crime Today. My name is Tony Bruschi. We will talk again real soon.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Bruschi and the Hidden Killers Podcast.